After appraising the metal ball, he put it on the table. Notwearingpence carried the metal ball carefully in his arms as though he was protecting a treasure. He did not mind the fact that the ball had been licked by the shopkeeper. This item is actually an ancient ruins key. I didn't expect us to trigger the preparatory mission for our future instance dungeon conquest, Notwearingpence muttered to Arthur. I must add this point in tonight's strategy guide. The shopkeeper ignored their nonsensical ramblings and said, though it's an ancient ruins key, it's not clear what ruin it is for, so I can't give you a high price. I'm unable to confirm its use, so I can only give you 5,000 magic stones for it. Sherlock beckoned Arthur and Notwearingpence to leave. If he could find the location of the ancient ruin, the key would fetch 50,000 magic stones. If he sold at 5,000 magic stones, it would be a major loss for him. The shopkeeper was worried when he saw Sherlock leaving. He blocked Sherlock's path in front of him and smiled. Devil Lord, we can discuss the price further. I'm willing to raise the price to 6,000 magic stones in addition to a small present. As Sherlock was about to decline, the shopkeeper raised his finger and said quickly, I know what the Devil Lord wants to say. You intend to find this ancient ruin, but to find the location of the ruin based on the key is very difficult. If you aren't skilled in archaeology and manor, even if you search for 100 years, you won't be able to find it unless you engage professionals. If you look for professionals, the cost is far greater than the value of the key. It won't be worth it for you. Why don't you sell it to me? If I find the ancient ruin, I am willing to share the exploration rights with you. 6,000 magic stones, together with a small present and the shared ancient ruins exploration rights. That's my greatest offer. Sherlock did a quick mental calculation and considered the shopkeeper's words. If he looked for the ancient ruin himself, he would not be able to afford it. It was better to let the shopkeeper search for the ancient ruin. When it was found, perhaps he could explore the ruin and find valuable items. That's possible, but I would like to take a look at your present. If it's an ordinary item, I'm not 10,000 magic stones and ancient ruins exploration rights. Devil Lord, it's shared ancient ruins exploration rights. The shopkeeper was afraid that Sherlock's going to wait a while. I'm taking out the small present, which is extremely valuable. The shop cage that imprisoned a fairy with a translucent pair of wings. The fairy was about the same size as a goblin and emitted a faint glow. Glow flapped the cage was not very large, and she occupied almost half the space. This little fairy from the Tree of Life is knowledgeable in medicinal herbs and specializes in making medicines. Her cultivated herbs have magical effects when eaten raw and can be used as a high-quality alchemy material. She can also use the simplest material to produce the highest quality metal star. Writing a I better that was a gift, devil. The fairy is not worth a cent. The shopkeeper pushed the fairy in front of Arthur. The fairy looked at the trio of Sherlock, Arthur and Notwearingpence, and her fear became even more intense. 2 goblins, a devil lord and possibly a dungeon full of vile creatures awaited her. She could not imagine how she was going to survive and closed her eyes in terror, trembling. According to Sherlock's standards of beauty, the small fairy was not beautiful and looked strange with multiple colors. However, Sherlock felt that a fairy who could cultivate medicinal herbs and produce medicines could be useful. Arthur and Notwearingpence had never seen a fairy before. Notwearingpence was especially curious about her. He walked around her a few times. Sherlock and the shopkeeper came to an agreement. The shopkeeper drafted a contract, and both of them signed on it. Then, they shook their hands. A magical seal appeared at their held hands and the agreement was completed. Sherlock took his part of the contract and left behind his address for the shopkeeper to contact him. The shopkeeper transferred 6,000 magic stones to Sherlock's personal card while Arthur took over the caged fairy. Notwearingpence handed over the ancient ruins key reluctantly to the shopkeeper who put it away carefully before sending them off warmly. Sherlock was moved when he looked at his personal card. At least, he had enough magic stones for Simba's salary and some food. The Eternal Kingdom was keeping 100 goblins. Though he had opened up the spider's lair to let them hunt for food, the goblins did not have combat experience. It would take some time for them to obtain a reliable supply of food from the spider's lair. Sherlock had 6,000 magic stones, which was a considerable amount. Life was full of twists and turns. Who would have thought that the spider's lair beside his dungeon had such a treasure? With the money in his hands, he was able to shop with confidence. Sherlock bought the necessary food and a number of teleport scrolls. Then, he entered a shop called Secret Garden that was filled with rotting plants. From its appearance, this was a horticulture shop. Sherlock entered the shop and left Arthur and Notwearingpence outside since they had too many things. It was not convenient for them to enter. Sherlock was also concerned about their safety, so he ordered them to stay outside the shop. They were unwilling, but since it was an order from the dungeon lord, they could not resist. I would like to see what's inside, Notwearingpence sighed as Sherlock went into Secret Garden. The shop was filled with various strange plants. A plant with tentacle suction pads was growing out from a huge flower pot. Flowers as tall as humans were chewing incessantly. The rhizomes were leaking crimson blood, while green vines with sharp spikes wound around a goat. The spikes were inserted into the goat's body, and liquid was flowing in the stem tubes. What a peaceful and warm scene. Sherlock felt as he looked at the cute little plants. Welcome, welcome. We have new arrivals and medium to large potted plants suitable for enjoyment during afternoon teas. A Torin with an apron was trimming a vine plant that was feeding on a goat. He cut off the vines that were too long. The plant immediately curled up and squashed the carried goat out of shape. It was fortunate that the goat was already dead and did not have to suffer immensely. The cut vine convulsed on the ground in pain as though it were a snake whose head had been cut off. My dungeon requires a new flower bed that is large and impressive. I'm also looking for seeds of medicinal herbs. The greater the variety, the better. The torrent took out a paper that he wrote and drew for a while before showing it to Sherlock. A good flower bed requires good quality soil. If you are cultivating high-quality medicinal herbs, the requirement for good soil is more stringent. The soil from the lowest level of the spirit world is most suitable. You can't use normal groundwater and normal fertilizer. I recommend the 2-in-1 well water from the eternal well below the tree of life. Just a drop is enough to irrigate a large flower bed. Of course, the cost will be higher. We have lots of high-quality seeds of medicinal herbs. The most popular ones. Sherlock raised his hand to cut the naggy torrent off as he said, "There's no problem except for the seeds. Please take note that a fairy will be cultivating them." The torrent shopkeeper was shocked and put down his raised hoof on the ground. He pondered before saying, "That is something to take note of. Underworld plants might feed on the fairy, so I'll spend more time on the seeds. Smuggling the seeds from the tree of life is not easy, but don't worry, I can guarantee the quality of the seeds." But the price? Sherlock waved his hands generously and said, "Price is no problem. Problems that can be solved with magic stones are not problems. You are a generous customer. The total is 100,000 magic stones." The flower bed business was finally completed. The soil was not the quality soil from the spirit world, but the Underworld's ordinary soil. The water and fertilizer were not from the eternal well whose well water was charged with mana. They likely weren't beneficial to ordinary soil anyways. A complete underground water well system could be used to obtain sweet underground water for irrigation and drinking. As for fertilizer, Stanley's composite zinc yellow was sufficient. Sherlock decided to use the seeds from the tree of life. Since the quality of the seeds determined the quality of the herbs, he decided not to skimp on the seeds. Sherlock spent 5,000 magic stones. Though it was reduced from the 100,000 magic stones, it was still a large transaction. The torrent shopkeeper sent Sherlock out warmly and arranged for the stone golem workers to follow Sherlock back to his dungeon. Sherlock now had less than 500 magic stones. He had been wealthy earlier, but now he was in poverty again like he was riding on a mountainous road. He was having mixed feelings. It was a worthwhile investment for the dungeon, so spending the magic stones was necessary. They teleported back to the Eternal Kingdom dungeon. The gamers gave a warm welcome to Sherlock, Arthur and Notweir Inkpence, who were fully loaded with goods. The stone golem workers pushed aside the crowd to survey their work location. Notweir Inkpence suddenly shouted, "Dungeon Lord! The fairy has fainted. Is this a fairy? Can we choose this race?" "I don't think so. According to Notweir Inkpence, this is a surface world's race, so we won't be able to select it." Who is speaking? I heard that this fairy will be our future life skills tutor." "Life skills? Which one?" "Horticulture. Didn't you see that the excavated areas were filled with a well and greenhouse? We received the Take Care of the Fairy missions. Arthur and Notweir Inkpence completed the chain missions before Shalai brought back the little fairy. How do we take care of her? We don't know what she eats." "Does she eat soil?" "Chain mission, life skill tutor. Who are these people? Where am I?" "Ah, yes, I was taken to the devil's dungeon. Shalai said she feeds on flowers. A lot of us had missions to find flowers. Hope she does not starve to death. If she dies and the mission fails, won't we be unable to learn life skills? Possibly the gamers are back. Quickly, make haste. The little fairy is not going to make it. Am I dying? It is better to die than to be tortured by those dungeon monsters." The little fairy felt her consciousness slipping away. Someone put shredded things into her mouth and she was surrounded by people who were chatting. She could not think anymore as she slipped into a deep coma. As the night was getting late, more and more gamers bid farewell to each other and went offline. They went to go find a good spot to sleep. Their bodies were sleeping, but their souls returned to the other world. Brew called this offline. Sherlock walked around his dungeon that had doubled in size in 2 days with the gamers' effort. They had excavated the food storage room and were in the initial cleaning stage. The room was not paved with stones yet. Neither were the walls covered with bricks. Once Simba completed the 100 sets of equipment, he would make some chisels and hammers. Then, the gamers could use these tools to pave the ground and roads with stone slabs and create brick walls. Though his dungeon looked run down, he could envision his dungeon becoming as grand as Winterfell, perhaps even grander. Besides building the main hall for storing food, Sherlock intended to construct a rest chamber for the gamers as it was not a good sight to see them lying all over the place. The original space for the rest chamber was used for the flower bed and the well. The stone golems would be spending 2 days constructing the facilities. The Winterfell fairy's condition deteriorated. Since arriving at the dungeon, she had been in a coma. According to the gnome shopkeeper, she was trying to kill herself through starvation. Sherlock had assigned take care of the fairy missions through brew. Some gamers fed her water, while others looked for flowers. Some even performed full-body massages on the fairy according to instructions from a gamer who was a professional masseur with an advanced masseur license. Though the little fairy was still in coma, her condition steadily improved. She would awake very soon. As for the fairy's unwillingness to cultivate herbs and make medicines, it was a small issue for Sherlock. He had lots of time to spend with her. Persuasion was his specialty. It was a basic course for a devil. Sherlock put aside the issue of the fairy and went to Simba to arrange for making chisels, hammers and pickaxes. The hammers and pickaxes required wood for its handles. Wood could be obtained from underground forests, the surface world's forest, or bought from the bazaar. Though it was only a day's journey to the surface world, Sherlock did not want to take the risk to venture out in the surface world. If the humans discovered him and sent an army or adventurers to the dungeon, he would be in great trouble. Sherlock's dungeon did not have much defensive capability and the entrance maze had not yet been constructed to repulse invaders. Sherlock had combat power, but he was unable to repulse tens of grand priests. He bought the dungeon with a lot of money, so he had to be careful and avoid trouble. Sherlock intended to spend a few days to look for underground forests. If he could not find any, he would not produce the pickaxes. Instead, he would produce chisels and hammers without handles. It would be more tiring for the gamers, but it would help him save money. There were only tens of gamers working late into the night in the dungeon. Sherlock made the necessary arrangements and returned to the dungeon core main hall. He used the computer to access the official website and discussion forum. Yesterday's post on the new opened area had garnered 80,000 replies, while the forum's posts had attained 200,000 within 2 days. It was impossible for him to read all the posts. Sherlock only browsed through the first few pages of posts which contained the gamer's speculation of the dungeon. Some were begging for the beta tester status. He found Notwehr Inkpunk's latest post, which was called Dungeon, Eternal Kingdom Future Possibility of Releasing the Hidden Location, Winterfell. Notwehr Inkpunks was a beta gamer and a famous upload master. The posts he published had garnered a lot of views. Within an hour, there were thousands of replies. Sherlock started reading Notwehr Inkpunk's post. Greetings, I am the beta gamer Notwehr Inkpunks. Asterisk degrees asterisk. As everyone knows, Dungeon, Eternal Kingdom opened up a new area, Spider's Lair. Let's talk about this new area. Only I, Arthur, Burning Kistair, Sylvanas, and Sakar the cat demon ventured into the Spider's Lair. Within 10 minutes, we were annihilated. With Arthur's bravery, he killed an underground spider and unlocked a hidden mission. We found a strange metal ball in the spider's carcass. Fortunately, both I and Arthur received the mission to follow Dungeon Lord Shalai to another new area. That new area is the title in the post, Winterfell. It's not the Winterfell from A Song of Ice and Fire. It's only a coincidence that the names are the same. The Winterfell is such a flourishing town that I am unable to describe it with words. The main point is that I saw unpublished contents of the game. It was a real-life sword and magic world. The real life does not mean the graphic quality. The different races and the society structure were like that of the real world, especially the NPCs. They were not repetitive A's and did not repeat the same words or actions. Each NPC was like a real character with his own life. I can't imagine the number of servers required to store the vast amount of content. I am guessing that the Winterfell is like our dungeon in which things can be moved. As I was following the Dungeon Lord all the way, I had no chance to explore the surroundings. I don't have much information on Winterfell. I do have several screenshots of Winterfell. Please take a look. Picture, more pictures. This game retained its principle of 100% reality. The same goes for Winterfell. With the screenshots, everyone will have some inkling of Winterfell. Trust me, this is only the tip of an iceberg. I hope that Winterfell will be open for us to explore. I will explain the ways of entering and exiting Winterfell. Only Shalai was able to bring us there and back. I have not found any direct path from the dungeon to Winterfell. Those who are thinking of hiking to Winterfell or entering the town via bug can forget about trying. Do you think there would be a bug for you to enter Winterfell in such a stellar game? That is all I can say about Winterfell, as I have only been there once for less than 2 hours. But I can tell you seriously that there are many more races in the game. It's stunning. There were also other aspects of the game such as mana, transportation, buildings, skills and commerce transactions. Though they are not yet available to us, once they are ready, I cannot imagine how it will be like. To me, it is no longer a game. We can experience sword and magic as a second life. To sum it up, I am impressed beyond words. I will continue to publish my current tested settings. As this is my personal opinion, the final settings should be referenced with the official website's released settings. First point, I mentioned attributes yesterday. Regardless of combat status, there is no attribute panel. Strength, intelligence, agility and crit rate don't exist. After exploring the spider's lair, I understand why there are no numerical attributes in the game. The capability of the gamers is not determined by these numerical attributes. It depends on the gamer. For example, the intelligence you have in real life will be the same intelligence you have in the game. The strength of the goblin in the game depends on your personal strength. To become stronger, you have to carry more bricks and do more work. After 2 days of labor, I feel that I have become stronger. Second point, in the dungeon, besides Simba, there is another little fairy who will be responsible for cultivating medicinal herbs and producing medicines. However, she was not willing to work for the dungeon as her race was in conflict with the dungeon races. I guess it is another hidden mission. Ambitious gamers can try their hands on the fairy NPC to see if this hidden mission can be accomplished. There might be a huge reward for it. Let's try our best. Third point, we could outfit ourselves with weapons and armor today. They are different from characters as they have detailed attributes, including attack, defense, strength and weight. For details, please refer to the pictures and attributes. Picture. Hilfist diamond short sword, ordinary white equipment. Damage, 0-10. Weight, 10. Durability, 10. Forger, blacksmith Simba. Required reputation, dungeon, Eternal Kingdom reputation level 1, basic level. Dungeon Eternal Kingdom's most commonly seen weapon. Forged from diamond seam. An information panel appeared beside the armor. Diamond armor, ordinary white equipment. Defense, 10. Weight, 20. Durability, 10. Forger, blacksmith Simba. Required reputation, dungeon, Eternal Kingdom reputation level 1, basic level. Dungeon Eternal Kingdom's most commonly seen equipment. Forged from diamond seam. The equipment was very expensive, and both pieces together cost 600 bronze coins. However, future merchants can earn money in the game as rich gamers can purchase the bronze coins directly. Fourth point, there is a new reputation setting today. Besides receiving coins as rewards, one can also receive reputation. The current reputation system is used as a requirement for buying equipment. From the above two pictures, I feel that it is similar to the concept of levels. There might be more uses for it in the future. Once the game is in open beta, everyone has to work harder in the missions to obtain reputation. Prepare to sacrifice your soul. The content above is what I thought of after going offline in the game. These few days, everyone has been working hard on the missions to earn bronze coins for buying the equipment. I estimate that tomorrow, we will be able to form a group to explore the spider's lair. If there are only a few of us, we will not be able to defeat the spiders. It was extremely terrifying since the spiders are so realistic. I still have goosebumps. I am going to sleep as I have to continue my missions tomorrow morning and earn coins for my equipment. I want to join the next expedition group to explore the spider's lair. I also want to see if the little fairy has a hidden mission for me. Everyone, rest early. I will take a look at your replies tomorrow night. Goodbye. Sherlock finished reading the opening post and was about to read the comments when a gamer ran excitedly to the outside of the dungeon core main hall and shouted, "Dungeon Lord." The little fairy is awake. That fast? Sherlock put the keyboard and mouse away and shut off the computer screen. He stood up and followed the gamer to the little fairy. The little fairy was hugging her knees and had curled herself up on a simple bed made of mud and some rhizomes. The bed had been constructed by the gamers. The nearby tens of gamers had put aside their missions upon seeing the fairy waking up. They had surrounded the fairy in curiosity. She would be responsible for cultivating medicinal herbs and making medicines. However, the news of her unwillingness had already been spread by not wearing pants. Such an NPC with conflicting objectives would definitely have a hidden special mission. It was the same case with Arthur and not wearing pants who had received hidden missions. Do you want to drink water? Would you like to have some flowers? I just plucked them. There's still mud on it. Do you have missions for me? I'm very strong. My reputation is already more than 500. Can I take on more missions? Teach me how to cultivate medicinal herbs or make medicine. I have money. The gamers tried all kinds of ways to attract the fairy's attention, but she continued hugging her knees in fear. She looked around but kept quiet. The gamers noticed that their efforts did not have any effect. Instead, the fairy was more fearful. They started chatting again. It's not right. There's no effect. The hidden mission can't be that simple. Perhaps the new missions haven't been refreshed yet. Do we have to wait for the next update? It's a possibility. It's Lord Sherlock. Give way, give way. The dramatic cutscene is starting. The gamers saw Sherlock approaching and quickly made way. The previously boisterous gamers became quiet. They looked silently in anticipation of the unfolding drama. The fairy saw Sherlock approaching. As his towering figure edged closer, she curled herself into a ball. Let me introduce myself. I'm the Eternal Kingdom's Dungeon Lord Sherlock and your new master. Little fairy, let me ask you a question. Would you like to go home? Sherlock maintained his cordial smile, but the fairy trembled in silence. Seems like you are still wary. I'll be direct with you. If you want to go home, I'm willing to do business with you. If you help me cultivate medicinal herbs, make medicines and bring me 50,000 magic stones in profit, I'll let you go home. We can make a contract. The fairy suddenly shouted in her shrill voice, Devil. I will never do business with the devil. Whoever deals with the devil will have their souls condemned forever. Even if I starve to death, I will never help you. Though she shouted aggressively, she curled herself into a ball again after the refusal. Talk to me when you change your mind. Sherlock turned to walk away. He had no intention of interacting with the fairy. The gamers started chatting. What's the situation? The negotiation failed. What's going to happen? Does it mean we can't cultivate medicinal herbs? Can't you see? This mission is meant for us. As the gamers were chatting with excitement, Prue said to Sherlock in his mind, aren't you going to coax her a bit more? Or tie her up, give her a good beating and torture her? Sherlock walked back as he said, your misunderstanding of the devil is still stagnated at hundreds of years ago. The new generation devils do not torture for fun. We play with the feelings of the heart. Good, I'll continue to give out missions to take care of the fairy, Prue said. The gamers surrounded the fairy in a bid to unlock the hidden mission. Sherlock did not stop them as they would be working hard to earn bronze coins and reputation later. He was well aware of their habits. They wanted Sherlock to set some goals. They would achieve them one by one and receive rewards and entertainment. Sherlock left the fairy and returned to the dungeon core main hall to browse the discussion forum. It had become his hobby. Sherlock was not worried about the fairy as manipulation of the heart would take some time. The gamers started to lose their patience with the fairy. No matter what they said, she would not respond. Some gamers wanted to poke her, but they were stopped by other gamers. It was not easy to have a special mission NPC. If they antagonized her and the mission was aborted, what were they going to do? The gamers didn't want to bully such an adorable fairy. Though the gamers treated her like an NPC, the game world was too realistic. The fairy curled up her body and ignored her surroundings. She was mentally prepared for torture, but the towering devil did not torture her. Instead, she was given the choice to go home. She was not interested in doing business with the devil. Even if she wanted to go home and was tempted by the offer, her family members had warned her never to do business with the devil. She suppressed her emotional upheaval and ignored the devil's temptation. The goblins had surrounded her once again and she was prepared to be tortured by them. Goblins were such filthy, evil and despicable creatures. The fairy was puzzled because the filthy goblins did not torture her. Since she had woken up, they had been chatting enthusiastically in front of her. She could not figure out what they were chatting about, especially the parts about hidden missions and NPCs. She also felt their warmth and friendliness. The fairy felt a sense of friendliness that she had not encountered since she had been captured in the Underworld. The goblins did not treat her as a slave. Instead, they were respectful of her, as though they were pleading her for something. They neither tortured nor scolded her. They treated her with care, and someone had even built her a bed. That was the mud and rhizome bed underneath her. Though it was a bit run down, to a caged fairy, the mud and the rhizomes were like treasures. At least she could smell the fragrance of the soil and the rhizome juice. Such longing for home. She lay down on the mud and rhizome bed and slowly drifted into a deep sleep. In the next 2 days, the flower bed was completed, and the excavated space was filled with thick layers of soil. Underground water could be retrieved using buckets in the constructed well. Though the gamers did not need water, they queued up to have a taste of the underground water. Although the flower bed was complete, the seeds from Secret Garden had not been planted yet, so the cultivation could not start. A few days had passed, and the fairy had no intention of yielding. Sherlock was not worried since she would yield one day unless she did not want to go home. On the official discussion forum, the fairy topped the list in the postings. The front pages of the posts were all filled with the words, Little Fairy. The gamers were putting all their attention on the fairy as they did various analysis and formulated strategies. Some gamers even read up on Tolkien's tales and told the stories to the Little Fairy. No matter how the gamers tried, the Little Fairy did not respond. The gamers still indulged in their fun as they attempted various ways to attract her attention. There were some gamers who did not put all their attention on the fairy. Not Wearing Pants and Arthur had failed a few times to attract her attention, so they focused on organizing the latest expedition to explore the spider's lair. They seemed to have a good relationship. Though Arthur seldom talked, he was always with Not Wearing Pants. After a few days of carrying bricks and spending renminbi to purchase bronze coins, 30 gamers were equipped with weapons and armor. They were ready to set out on their expedition. On the 5th morning of the beta testing, the armed gamers completed their swearing ceremony in the dungeon core main hall. The other gamers looked on solemnly. Then, the contingent of 30 goblins set out towards the spider's lair. Sherlock looked at the contingent of 30 marching towards the spider's lair from a distance. Though it was not a large group, with such organization and discipline, it did not look like what normal goblins could do. They even had a swearing-in ceremony. To form this expedition quickly, many gamers contributed their bronze coins to help the expedition participants obtain their equipment. Sherlock looked at these gamers who had strong positive energy and could not help but admire these otherworld's goblins. Sherlock used manner for surveillance on the expedition to see if they enjoyed the entertainment outlet. Death was no longer a huge problem. Sherlock was not concerned whether they would die in the lair, as their revival would only cost Sherlock a bit of mana and no financial loss. When the goblins arrived at the spider's lair, they had a climactic encounter with the spiders. The combat skills of the gamers were like babies, but with their superiority in numbers in addition to their low revival cost. The repeated fighting would hone their combat skills. With time they would only die a few times. The gamers who were huddling together wailed in horror as the horde of spiders swarmed out. In the ensuing confusion, some gamers were snatched off by the spiders like little chicks. Some gamers were simply frozen, while others screamed wildly as they swung their short swords to resist. They were quickly thrown to the ground, and either passed out or perished from the blows. Some spiders were slashed by the gamers in the confusion, and those spiders quickly retreated without any casualties. Arthur was much more composed this time than during his first encounter. He was more skilled and agile than the other gamers, but he could not kill the spiders easily. The bodies of the other gamers acted like a shield, and he only managed to injure the spiders. The battle was entirely lopsided. Instead of the gamers having fun, the superior spiders were butchering the gamers. The gamers were like food for the creatures. The gamers were being continuously snatched away. It was impossible to resist the spiders or retrieve equipment or fallen comrades. Those gamers who were snatched away had to create new characters. Brew. Sherlock observed from the magic screen that the gamers were losing and asked Brew, "Are you sure that these otherworld's goblins like this kind of game? Being eaten, falling to death and losing their intestines. Do they obtain pleasure? The otherworld does not have pleasure, but there is some pleasure in this world. Skiro, Souls, Sirius and Bloodborne are quite popular," Brew replied quickly. "Don't they have fighting in their world? Though they are weak, being butchered by the underground spiders like that shows that they are excessively weak," Sherlock said, bewildered. "Fighting, of course, but their fighting opponents are different from ours. Their opponents are mathematics, physics, chemistry, unspoken rules, the struggle for a better life and the loss of special rights to the rich. As they are not life-threatening, their combat skills are weak," Brew explained. Then, Brew asked worriedly, "Lord Sherlock, if the butchering continues, I'm afraid the gamers will rage quit." "Rage quit?" Sherlock asked as he sensed the crux of the problem. "It's like a rebellion in this world. In this world, if you recruit a goblin but don't pay salary on time, or if the facilities of the dungeon are not complete, the goblin will leave the dungeon quickly. Though the gamers from the other world will not rebel because of salary or facilities, they will leave if they don't feel pleasure." Sherlock frowned. It was not easy to be a dungeon lord. It was even harder to be a qualified dungeon lord. The times were changing. It was no longer the ignorant times in which the dungeon lord could strangle his servants as he pleased. The dungeon lords who treated their servants with cruelty were blacklisted by the underworld creatures. Nobody wanted to work in such a dungeon. The dungeon lords had to pay the servants' salary and provide comprehensive facilities that were very expensive. It was not easy for Sherlock to have the otherworld's goblins who did not require salary and facilities. They could even perish and have unlimited revivals. All they wanted were metal coins and a reputation system that made them work hard without supervision. Such a free and continuous supply of labor like ancient slaves. "You are telling me that they are likely to quit if this continues?" Sherlock realized the seriousness of the issue. If the otherworld's goblins, who were providing free labor, quit, he would have to incur large expenses for salary, facilities and entertainment when he recruited normal goblins. That was what Sherlock did not want, as he could at most afford 5 to 10 normal goblins. "Lord Sherlock, as your loyal assistant, I feel I have to give you some suggestions. Though the gamers love to challenge themselves, if they have no chance to overcome the challenge after exerting their full effort, then their fighting spirit will diminish. If they have a chance to become stronger through their hard work and improve their chances of overcoming the challenges, their repeated deaths will inflame their fighting spirit," Brew said. "We can't let them perish in this way. Setting aside the issue of them quitting, all of my bronze coins are not enough for them to repurchase lost equipment." Sherlock took out a teleport scroll and said to Brew, "They have lost badly. Console them while I make a trip to Winterfell. I'm looking for a skills trainer. They call this person a coach. Sherlock tore the teleport scroll and vanished. Bruce said helplessly, "Console them." "Should I make an announcement to give them an expedition reward? 10 bronze coins per person seems feasible." While Sherlock was looking for a skills trainer, only 10 of the 30 gamers had made it back and were in bad shape. Those that had perished had started creating their new characters. Those who were badly injured lay on the ground moaning. Though they didn't feel the pain, they moaned a few times to maintain the game's atmosphere. The expedition met with a serious setback. A depressing and hopeless feeling pervaded the gamers who complained that the game was too difficult. "The combat is so realistic that I'm losing all hope. I don't even know where to stab the spider with my sword. The spider scared the shatterest tea out of me. If 30 of us can't make it, don't we have to muster 100 of us? This is frustrating. Half my leg was chewed and I can't stand up. Where shall I? Can he heal me?" The dungeon was noisy and chaotic. The fairy at the corner saw the bloody scene and was terrified. These goblins were full of blood and could still joke casually. What kind of scary creatures could do such a thing? She had thought they were friendly. It was a mistake. The gamers were perplexed by their failed expedition. They heard Bruce's voice in their heads. "Congratulations on completing the hidden missions requirements. Every participant will receive 100 reputation points, 10 bronze coins and a free chance to improve your close combat skill. For exact details, please refer to the official website's announcement." The gamers cheered wildly after they heard the voice of the public address system. Their depression and hopelessness vanished. Though they did not know how they were going to improve their combat skills, they could not wait to improve their fighting skills and challenge the spider's lair. Sherlock returned to Winterfell. After determining the direction, he walked in the opposite direction of the bazaar. He was heading towards the special talent market, which was a place to recruit rare talents. "Respectable Lord Sherlock, our special talent market has many registered elite talents. We don't have a combat-skilled servant who is only paid 20 magic stones per month." Missy Succubus behind the glass window tried her best to stay calm and cordial as she said, "The abomination, which is a stitch giant, already costs 20 magic stones per month. As you know, we only have the elites of the elite. 20 magic stones is too little. I don't need a combat-skilled warrior. I am looking for a servant who can make my goblins skilled in combat. You could say he's a coach. Don't look at me like that. I know it's strange to train goblins to fight, but this is also a special talent, so I'm here to seek help. Please help me to publish this recruitment notice. The talent who is confident of training my goblins and is willing to do so for 20 magic stones per month can contact me," Sherlock said patiently. "Lord Sherlock, according to the rules, we can't publish a recruitment notice with a salary of 20 magic stones. The lowest limit is 200 magic stones." Missy Succubus looked like she was in a dilemma. "Let's not talk about the rules. With our previous dealings, those rules are not worth talking about." Sherlock looked gently at Missy Succubus, and she felt embarrassed by his gaze. She turned her head, and her cheeks were flushed as though blood was going to drip out. "But Lord Sherlock, this is only the second time we've met. The first time we met, you sold me a dungeon with an abandoned core. I don't think it's too much to ask you to publish a recruitment notice for our second meeting." Sherlock slapped the table and said in a matter-of-fact tone, "Why are you working as a receptionist instead of selling dungeons? The salary for selling dungeons should be higher. It is if I managed to sell dungeons. The only dungeon I managed to sell was the one to you, Lord Sherlock. Though the dungeon property market is very hot, I can't figure out the hidden rules. My dungeons are either raided by the surface world or abandoned for a long time. Only Lord Sherlock would buy such a dungeon. Because I'm unable to sell a second dungeon, I can't earn commissions, so I don't have any source of income. This job as a receptionist is my only livelihood," Missy Succubus said as her eyes were welling with tears of grievances. "Since I'm your only customer, shouldn't you help me?" Sherlock said as he pretended not to see Missy Succubus' tears. Missy Succubus noticed that Sherlock's expression was neutral and soothed her emotions. She ensured that nobody was looking and said in a low voice to Sherlock, "I can help you, but I can't openly publish a recruitment notice. If the guild discovers the notice, I'll lose my job. I'll keep a lookout for you discreetly. If there's a suitable candidate, I'll send him over to your dungeon." She saw Sherlock's pleased face and said, "Lord Sherlock, why are you training goblins to be warriors? Besides mining and carrying ores, are they capable of other things? If you need warriors, new dungeons can go for gnomes. They are close relatives of goblins, but they are better than the goblins in all aspects. The price is also reasonable." Sherlock knew that she was dissuading him from wasting time on the goblins with good intentions. However, his goblins were not normal goblins. They were gamers from the Underworld. They were hard-working and did not require pay. These free goblins were gifts from God. If only 20 magic stone were needed to obtain 100 goblins worth of free labor, Sherlock was more than happy to do it. Sherlock did not answer Mrs. Succubus' question, but thanked her for the good intentions. He reminded her to keep a lookout for suitable candidates before leaving the special talent market. As he was about to return to the Eternal Kingdom, he heard Bruce say, "Lord Sherlock, as your loyal servant, I have to make a suggestion." "Say it." "I feel that you need to find an assistant in Winterfell to help you settle the trivial matters such as purchasing materials or recruiting workers for upgrading structures. Currently, you need to travel so frequently." "Isn't it troublesome?" Bruce said. "That makes sense, but a capable assistant requires a salary. I have to rent a house for the assistant and take care of their meals. I feel it's better to use the teleport scroll or just travel here," Sherlock said solemnly. "You are indeed thrifty." Bruce sounded helpless and he said, "We could try cheaper ways like hiring part-timers." "What about Mrs. Succubus, who sold me to you?" "I think she's suitable. Perhaps you could sound her out to see if she's willing to help." Sherlock considered Bruce's suggestion and felt that it was feasible. If he could find a Winterfell resident as a part-timer, it would be more convenient than traveling. However, the part-timer needed to be on good terms with the shopkeepers to allow cash on delivery. Mrs. Succubus was a good choice. This matter was not urgent, so Sherlock kept it inside his heart and did not discuss it further. When he returned to the dungeon, the gamers who were badly injured by the spiders and those who were still working hard quickly gathered around him. "When can we start learning skills? Any requirements for learning skills? Do we have to choose our profession? The first time is free. Do we pay for consecutive times?" The gamers asked noisily. Sherlock listened to their questions and asked Brew, "Did you tell them that I went to look for a skills trainer?" "I made a public announcement informing them of training and that the details would be in the official website." "They misunderstand that you are teaching them combat skills. In the dungeon, you're the only one who can fight," Brew explained. Sherlock understood the situation and exerted his authority to make the gamers remain silent. He said, "Because of the lackluster combat performance, I'm getting a combat trainer, but it will take time. Those who are injured, I'll heal you for 10 bronze coins." The healthy gamers dispersed in disappointment. The wounded gamers sought treatment for their injury. As Simba completed the chisels and hammers, Brew assigned missions to make stone slabs and to pave the ground and the walls. Soon, the gamers were absorbed in their missions. As for exploring the spider's lair, they put it aside as the mission was too difficult. They looked forward to learning combat skills before challenging the spiders again. Sherlock went to the dungeon core main hall. He accessed the official website on the computer magical item and wanted to publish information regarding skills training. Suddenly, he felt a series of mana ripples coming from the dungeon core, which emitted some flames. A letter was thrown out from the flames. "Someone sent me a letter." Sherlock picked up the letter and opened it. The letter had a few lines of words that read, "Lord Sherlock, after you left, I found you a suitable special talent to train your goblins. He was pleased with the monthly salary of 20 magic stones. I purchased the teleport scroll to let him travel to the dungeon. Please kindly pay me 5 magic stones as commission when you return to Winterfell." "Thank you. The teleport scroll is free. Love, Lord Sherlock's sales girl, Evelyn. Seems like she's rather concerned about the trainer recruitment and she's capable. I'm proposing employing her as part-time Winterfell's Eternal Kingdom ambassador." Bruce smiled. After teasing Sherlock, there was another mana ripple and Bruce said, "Dungeon Lord, a person requests for using the teleport scroll to our dungeon. I believe he's the special talent sent by Evelyn. Do I let him in?" "Let him in," Sherlock nodded. A teleport portal opened outside the dungeon core main hall. The gamers who were busy doing their missions were given a fright and gathered around noisily. A gnome with 2 bloody bandaged ears walked out from the portal. "That many goblins. The dungeon lord must be a rich man. My chance to become famous is here." The gnome looked at the surrounding goblins and was moved to tears. Sherlock felt that the gnome looked familiar and he was trying hard to recall when Not Wearing Pants pointed at the gnome and shouted, "That gnome is the security guard for Winterfell's teleport portal reception hall. I saw him the last time at Winterfell." Hearing that he was a gnome from Winterfell, the gamers perked up. Because of Not Wearing Pants' post on Winterfell, it had become the most mysterious place in their hearts. With the presence of a Winterfell NPC, did it indicate the opening of Winterfell? Perhaps the gnome was responsible for starting off the pre-mission for Winterfell. When the gamers surrounded and questioned the teleported gnome, Sherlock walked over. The gnome exclaimed in astonishment. When he saw Sherlock, he knelt down on one knee respectfully and bowed before saying, "The Great Eternal Kingdom Dungeon Lord. I am Moros, Winterfell's gnome captain. I accepted your recruitment, and I'm willing to train your servants." "So my students are all these Moros?" Looked at the surrounding curious goblins, who were wearing armor, half-naked or wearing tattered clothing. Strong, courageous goblins with bright futures. Is he talking about us? Is he the skills trainer in the public announcement? Yeah, we can learn skills. Make haste, make haste. The gamers started their noisy chattering again. Sherlock walked to the front of the gnome and sized him up before saying, I'm looking for a special talent to train my goblins into warriors. Are you the security guard at the teleport portal reception hall? Sherlock did not trust Moros. He had to pay Moros 20 magic stones every month. It was unacceptable for Sherlock if Moros was a good for nothing. Dungeon Lord, I'm aware of your concern. Please believe me, I'm able to train them, Moros said as he took out a medal and said excitedly, when I was young. I obtained the gold medal and 50 magic stones while taking part in the gladiators tournament. Do not be deceived, Dungeon Lord. I was a legendary gladiator during my prime. I have served other lords too and fought against dragons, sirens and grand priests, till I got married. Moros could not help feel depressed. It's a long, long story. Enough, I can guess as much what happened after your marriage. Sherlock lifted his hand to cut off Moros. You can start with a week of probation, and the pay will be 10 magic stones for a gnome. If you can train the goblins to fight the spiders, I'll formally employ you. Moros was excited and knelt on one of his knees. I, Moros, am willing to serve Lord Sherlock. Our contract is sealed. Sherlock extended his finger, and a magic contract appeared in his hands. He signed and passed it to Moros, who imprinted his fingerprint. Our contract is sealed. After they sealed their contract, the magic contract vanished and Moros stood up excitedly as he asked, Dungeon Lord, where is my rest chamber? Did you bring your bed and blanket? Sherlock asked instead of answering. Because I left home in a haste, I can also stay in a shared rest chamber, Moros said earnestly. Moros is officially your skills trainer. Construct a bed for Moros now, Sherlock ordered the gamers. The gamers were watching their conversation as though it was a cutscene animation. When Sherlock abruptly gave them orders, the gamers immediately started working. The gamers constructed a bed made of mud and rhizomes not far from the fairy's bed. Moros looked awkwardly at the newly built bed. Then, he looked at the little fairy who was curled up. Moros, as you can see, the dungeon is newly developed, and other facilities take precedence over rest chambers. The goblins are sleeping on the ground. As you are a special talent, you won't be sleeping on the ground. This bed belongs to you. Sherlock pointed to the new bed and said, if you don't have questions, the newly excavated space will be your training ground. I'll arrange for the goblins to pave the training ground with stone slabs. The goblins are now in your care. Moros was uncomfortable without a rest chamber. On seeing the newly developed dungeon with 100 goblins, he felt that Sherlock was a rare and generous dungeon lord. Though Sherlock did not look rich and the goblins did not have proper rest chambers, Moros was sure the benefits were extremely good for the goblins to work that hard. Moros looked forward to the end of probation so that he could enjoy the same benefits. Yes, Dungeon Lord, Moros became enthusiastic. If there are no more questions, follow me while I explain the job requirements. He brought Moros to the dungeon core main hall. After closing the door, they were both alone in the hall. Though Sherlock employed the skills trainer for the gamers, the dungeon development depended on the gamers. There was only one free training session lasting 2 hours. If they wanted more training, they had to pay fees. If they trained every day, who was going to work? The fees were metal coins instead of magic stones. Next was the training schedule. Besides sleeping time, Moros would train the goblins for 2 hours followed by half an hour of rest. The schedule was rather humane. I'm good with the training schedule. But, Lord Sherlock, why are they paying with bronze coins? Isn't the bronze coin a surface world's currency? It is not valuable to us, Moros expressed his opinion. He was puzzled about charging goblins for the training. Becoming a warrior was a tough endeavor, and most goblins were unwilling to train. When in a fight, goblins charged with their eyes closed as they screamed, "Wah!" Some avoided the fight altogether. If the goblins had to pay to undergo tough training, would they not use it as an excuse to avoid training? Moros had intended to give them mandatory training, but the goblins could give the reason that they had no money to train. Moros could no longer guarantee he could train the goblins to become warriors. Don't worry about this. This is part of our reward system in Eternal Kingdom to reward them for their hard work. Whether they will avoid training is not an issue. Once you start training, you'll know. The first training session is free. After his explanation, Sherlock dismissed Moros so that he could prepare to start work. Moros kept quiet and walked to the training ground. The training ground was full of goblins, who were staring wide-eyed with anticipation as Moros approached from the dungeon core main hall. He's here. We can finally train. Keep quiet. Keep quiet. Concentrate on your training. Focus. The goblins who were chit-chatting became quiet when Moros came near. They waited eagerly for Moros to train them in combat skills. Morose had thought that he would have to use great effort or even threaten one of the goblins to warn the rest to keep quiet. But they kept quiet once he stood close. They looked intently at him as though they were afraid of missing out. The goblins were unexpectedly obedient. According to the dungeon lord's instruction, everyone can receive 2 hours of free training. Thereafter, it costs 100 bronze coins for subsequent 2-hour sessions. There will be a rest period of half an hour between training sessions. You are to obey my instructions during training. Do you understand? Morose shouted to the goblins. Understood, the gamers shouted in unison. They started on the Sword and Magic Game World's first training. Sherlock observed that the gamers were training their constitution and then their combat skills. However, he noticed a gamer who did not participate in the training. This gamer with the name Rainbow was at the flower bed planting flowers. Brew, didn't you say that gamers love fighting and adventure? Why isn't that gamer training? Sherlock asked. Let me see, Brew pondered for a while and said, the goblin is a life connoisseur gamer and sightseer. Life connoisseur gamer. Sightseer? Sherlock was curious about these two new terms. Brew explained and Sherlock understood immediately that the gamer was a peace-loving person who was passionate in farming and forging activities that were non-violent. And the gamer was a scenery lover too. Sherlock looked at the excavated tunnels, the piles of diamond seam and Simba's forged weapons and tools that were piling up outside the blacksmith shop like discarded metal. What scenery was there to see? Sherlock had no intention to interfere with his servants' activities. As long as they were contributing to the dungeon's development, he was supportive of their fighting, farming and forging. Even if they were not contributing, he was nonchalant as the gamers were not paid salary. The gamer was planting flowers. In the future, the gamer could cultivate medicinal herbs with the little fairy. Whether the little fairy was willing to work for him, Sherlock was not worried as he had a lot of time on his hands. As the gamers had only just started training, acquiring the basic combat skills to survive in the spider's lair would require a few more days. Sherlock put aside these trivial matters and started planning for the dungeon. The only building in the dungeon was the dungeon core main hall, which was already built when he bought it. Outside the main hall was the blacksmith shop. The western excavated space was used for food storage. The southern excavated space was used for flower beds and farms, while the eastern excavation space was used for the training ground. The excavation of the 100 goblins' group rest chambers was still in progress. It would take some time to complete. Sherlock had to purchase the furniture for the rest chambers. The double-decker beds would cost quite a bit. The 500 magic stones in Sherlock's card were to be used for buying this furniture. The dungeon was well into its development and was a step closer to Sherlock's grand vision of the Devil King's dungeon. While Sherlock was planning for the new areas of the dungeon, the gamers were being pushed beyond their limits as the training was too tough. Morose was capable as he was a legendary and tough gladiator when he was young. Though the tournament that he had participated in was of the lowest category, it was more than sufficient for training the goblins. Morose obtained a short sword and armor from Simba before practicing with a few gamers. They were not Moro's match and were badly beaten. Even the courageous Arthur was defeated and stomped under Moro's feet. Morose commented, "You are the worst trainees that I have ever trained." This was not an insult but the truth. Morose had not had goblins as trainees before. Though he had been mentally prepared and had not expected much from the goblins were so bad that they could not be described as poor. Even if the goblins were not skilled, at least they could grab a sword, close their eyes and slash. These gamers could not even grasp their swords firmly, and most importantly, they could not even slash accurately. Morose pitted two gamers against each other with weapons. The two gamers wielded their weapons and slashed with metal clanging sounds, but the swords were not aimed at the body. Rather, they were aiming at each other's swords, which missed the point of fighting. Morose thought they were the exception and called out more gamers to fight, but the result was the same. Except for a few gamers who aimed at the opponent's critical areas, most gamers did not know where to stab. In actual combat, if they did not know where to stab, it would be disastrous. Haven't you used a sword before? Haven't you slashed at your opponents before? Morose looked at the gamers and could not believe that none of them had actual combat experience. Someone came forward and said, "Trainer, we are novices and have only been here for a few days. This is our first time having combat training. I haven't slashed a goblin before, but we have slashed spiders before. Yes, we have fought against spiders before." Morose was piqued, so they had combat experience with spiders. What was the result? The gamers narrated their expedition into the spider's lair. It was a massacre. Though they had fought with the spiders, they had been terrified and had not dared to open their eyes. Instead, they had wildly slashed around with their swords. Those that had hit their targets were simply lucky. Morose understood once he heard the gamer's narration. Their expedition was a butchering session by the spiders. Morose did not understand why Lord Sherlock had sent them as meals to the spiders, but he knew his mission was to train them into warriors. Since the gamers were so timid, they could not be qualified warriors. Morose understood the fact that besides teaching them fighting techniques, sword poses and basic swordplay, he had to use actual combat situations to hone their fighting skills in order to train them into warriors within a month. Morose did not want to lose his job. He had only a month's probation. If he could not train the gamers into warriors, how could he prove his worth to Lord Sherlock? The 20 magic stones salary was only available here. There would not be a second dungeon training goblins in combat, as goblins were meant for hard labor. To train them in a month required extreme measures like actual combat. Though the gamers could hone their techniques in one-on-one sparring, the progress would be slow. They had to experience dangerous live combat to improve quickly. For example, they needed to fight a live underground spider. Maros decided to bring them into the spider's lair to capture a lone spider. In the gladiators' arena, it had been a common method to condition the gladiators. Those who had survived the rigorous live combat sessions became excellent warriors. Moros informed Sherlock regarding his plan. Sherlock agreed immediately but required sufficient safety measures. Lord Sherlock, don't worry, I won't let your servants sacrifice themselves, Moros said solemnly. No, I'm referring to your safety. If you meet with danger, take care of yourself. Don't worry about the goblins, Sherlock said. Moros did not expect Sherlock to be that concerned about him and so nonchalant about the goblins' safety. He was extremely touched. The first thing to do was to control the underground spider. There was no time to make a large cage or gladiator ring, but Simba could make a large chain. Sherlock intended to make a trip to the spider's lair and bring back a lone spider. Before he made his move, Moros volunteered valiantly and said, Dungeon Lord, give this mission to me. As the goblin said trainer, I have to prove my worth. It's also a form of training for the goblins. Sherlock saw Moros' determination and nodded. It was a good opportunity to test Moros' worth. If he could not bring back an underground spider, he would not be worth 20 magic stones per month. After obtaining approval from Sherlock, Moros returned to the training ground and informed the gamers regarding the capture of a spider. He asked, who's willing to go with me? I want the bravest goblins. Moros had expected only a few to volunteer, as goblins were timid by nature and would not take risks. But then, all the gamers raised up their hands and shouted, me. Choose me. Holy cow, there's indeed a hidden mission. I should have been more proactive in the training just now. Moros was dumbstruck. These goblins, are they not afraid of death? Moros was impressed by their bravery, but he could not bring all of them. Too many goblins would attract a horde of spiders. Moros only intended to bring 10 goblins. He selected the best goblins based on their training performance. Sherlock pondered over the fact that these gamers were combat novices. He announced a mission to the selected gamers via Brew. Special mission, new trainers training tool. Mission summary, skills trainer Moros has decided to capture a live underground spider as a training tool. It is a great honor to have been selected. Moros will lead you to mission completion. Mission reward, selected gamers will receive free a short sword and armor. After completion of the mission, each goblin will receive 100 bronze coins. Dungeon reputation reward, 500 points. Note, if Moros perishes before returning to the dungeon, the mission will fail. As long as Moros is alive, there is no time limit, and the mission may be repeated. As Moros was going to lead the gamers out under the envious gaze of other gamers, the selected goblins looked at him in unison. Trainer, you better not die. If there's danger, just run. Not where Rinkpants shouted as he grabbed Moros' hand as though he was begging him. Moros felt that something was strange. He had intended to prove his worth to Lord Sherlock so that he could stay in the dungeon. To obtain Sherlock's favor, he had selected 10 excellent goblins to help him capture a live spider to be used as a training tool. He had selected the 10 goblins to be his assistants, but they had become his stumbling block. A goblin whose head had the green words burning stare charged out 100 meters and stood on a high vantage point, surveying the environment anxiously. Moros had asked Sherlock regarding the green names above the goblin's head, and he had replied casually, that's a method to increase their enthusiasm. Don't you worry. Since the dungeon lord was not worried and the effect was created using mana, Moros did not pursue further. It's safe in front. There's no underground spiders. The front scout burning stare turned and said. Don't put down your guard. There is no second chance if we die. If there's danger and there are too many spiders, we'll run for our lives. Don't hesitate. Not where Rinkpants said grimly to his comrades. Arthur was Moros' best trainee who could become a qualified warrior. He was looking grave and used his whetstone to sharpen his blade. The other gamers were all alert, and they formed a protective ring around Moros. They were discussing in front of Moros how they were going to capture the spider. If there was danger, who would sacrifice to delay the spiders so that others could escape? Enough. If you think this is a sightseeing mission, you may go back now. The scout whistling in the front, are you trying to expose our location? The few of you who are surrounding me, if we find a target and I'm not able to capture it at the first instance, are you going to capture it? Moros was running out of patience. He shouted angrily at the goblins, who didn't treat him as their coach. Was he not the main character for this mission? Should the goblins not follow behind him warily in case they lost their lives? Though they were saying things like, mission will fail if he dies, Moros could not see how the goblins were afraid of death. Their gazes on him were also strange. Why were they worried that Moros would die? Were the goblins that sure they would not be the ones to perish? Moros felt that the goblins had become the main characters and that his capabilities were under question. After venting his temper, the goblin stopped chatting and followed his instructions to stay by his side. They advanced in their formation. This trainer NPC has got character. The eye is so awesome, it allowed the NPC to interact with us. Hush, don't let the trainer hear you. What if he sends you back and cancels your mission? You will have wasted your trip. Would he cancel my mission because we chatted? He might just do that. This game is very realistic. I'm not surprised anymore. The goblins continued to whisper among themselves, and Moros was about to blow his top when Arthur said anxiously, "Shh, keep quiet. There's something." Everyone heard Arthur's warning and became alert. Moros half squatted and saw 2 underground spiders crawling out from a huge boulder at the lair's entrance. The spiders had discovered them. "I'll kill one. All of you distract the other spider," Moros ordered the goblins before charging towards the spiders. Notwearingpants and the goblins followed Moros. Moros was swift as he leapt onto a spider and slashed its iron mandibles, which spewed green blood. He did not hesitate. As Moros was about to slash the spider again, the spider lifted its 2 legs to attack him. Moros was calm and focused. He wanted to dodge and give the spider a fatal blow. As he was about to execute his move, Notwearingpants charged towards the spider, and the spider leg penetrated Notwearingpants' stomach. The spider lost its balance while Moros was dazed. Was the goblin tired of living? Thanks to Notwearingpants' heroic feat, Moros capitalized on the opportunity and slit open the spider's belly while it was off balance. The spider made shrill screeching sounds before collapsing on the ground. Notwearingpants was dangling from its leg. Moros did not wait to find out if Notwearingpants was still alive. He dashed towards the other spider. The goblins had surrounded the spider according to Moros' instructions. Using their newly learned fighting techniques, they attacked the spider legs and disabled 2 of its legs. They also tied the chain around the spiders a few times. With Moros' help, the spider's legs were bound and it became immobile. The mission was successful, but they had sacrificed a goblin. Moros felt that they had no choice. If that goblin had listened to his orders and joined the other goblins to corner the other spider, the goblin wouldn't have died. Trapping the other spider was not an issue. Moros could not understand why the goblin charged to his death. The only plausible reason was to protect Moros, but the goblin had only known Moros for a day. Why would he do that for Moros? Moros made sure the chain was properly secured before rushing over to Notwearingpants. Notwearingpants was still alive, but the spider leg had penetrated his stomach. The huge impact had tore through the armor. The armor was not able to deflect the immense penetrative power of the spider leg. Fresh blood spilled onto the ground. Notwearingpants did not say a word. He held the spider leg with one hand, while he hacked the spider leg with the other hand. With his violent movements, more fresh blood dripped from his mouth. Moros knew that he was trying to hack off the spider leg to save himself. What a strong-willed goblin with an equally strong survival instinct. Moros was full of admiration for Notwearingpants, but he was bewildered by his suicidal move. With Notwearingpants' superb willpower, he was considered a qualified warrior. No, an excellent warrior. An excellent warrior should not have to suffer in his death. Brother, I don't know why you protected me. I'll always remember you. Moros looked at Notwearingpants, who was busy hacking inside. He took out his green blood-stained short sword while grabbing Notwearingpants' shoulders. He got ready to slit Notwearingpants' throat to relieve him of his pain. Wait, what are you doing? Notwearingpants was surprised that the new trainer NPC would talk to him out of the blue. Could there be a special mission? He saw the new trainer NPC going for his throat with the short sword, and he immediately grabbed the blade with his hand. Bravo, his palm was injured before he was going to die. You are a brave warrior. I'm giving you a death worthy of a brave warrior. Be on your way. May you rest well in the spirit world, Moros said sadly as he pushed Notwearingpants' hand away. He put the blade on Notwearingpants' throat and said, "Shh, don't say a word. It's going to be fast." Wait, I still have hope, Arthur. Chest air, help me, Notwearingpants shouted loudly. Arthur and Burning Kister rushed over and Notwearingpants said, "Help me out. I'm stuck with this spider leg. Why is this NPC trying to kill me? What the heck, is this a new game setting? When I'm seriously wounded, is this considered death?" Notwearingpants said as Arthur and Burning Kister came over. They were not sure what was going on, but they were prepared to cut off the spider leg. Moros was astonished. Why was the goblin not in pain? Especially when such a large spider leg penetrated his stomach and made a mess of his intestines. Even if he did not die, he should have been screaming in pain. If he was lucky, he would pass out and die unconscious. If he was unlucky, he had to suffer hours of pain. Obviously, he belonged to the unlucky category. Moros was trying to ease his pain, but Notwearingpants was resistant. Shouldn't Notwearingpants be grabbing Moros' hand and saying, "Thank you, teacher," or something similar? While Moros was in a daze, Arthur and Burning Kister had cut off the spider's leg. They helped Notwearingpants up. He tried to walk, but his injury was too serious. He had shut off the pain sensation, so it was not painful, but his legs wobbled. They had to carry him. Not where Rinkpants felt he could be saved and wanted to persist. Morose gave up giving him an honourable death. He was puzzled why Not where Rinkpants was not feeling pain and rationalised that Not where Rinkpants had strong willpower. The following events made Morose more shocked and puzzled. Not only was Not where Rinkpants nonchalant about death, even the other goblins were not concerned about his life and death as they made merry. Not where Rinkpants, you're awesome. We were caught off guard, but you charged out and blocked the blow. Yes, if you hadn't blocked that blow, our mission would have failed. Awesome. Everyone were heaping praises onto Not where Rinkpants. Nobody mentioned Morose's bravery. Morose could not comprehend why it turned out this way. Should they not be surrounding him and discussing his bravery? They were joking with Not where Rinkpants, and he was also cracking jokes as though the spider leg was not impaled in his stomach. Even when his face was getting pale and the blood dripped along the way, he was happily chatting. There was no sadness or depression of an impending death. They dragged the bound underground spider and carried Not where Rinkpants. They smiled as they marched back. As they were about to reach the dungeon entrance, Not where Rinkpants stopped breathing. Morose closed his eyes as he prayed silently for this brave goblin that he had only known for a day. If he had been in the gladiator arena, he would have been a gladiator star. Morose felt that he had to console the other goblins. He said with sorrow, "Everyone, though Not where Rinkpants has left us, don't be sad. Let us pray for him silently." "Coach, stop praying. The dungeon's just ahead. I'm having my meal before going offline," Burning Kister said in a hurry. Morose and the goblins came back safely with a struggling underground spider. The dungeon broke into waves of wild cheering and applause. The gamers were welcoming them like heroes. There was Morose, Arthur and Not where Rinkpants' corpse. Dungeon Lord, help him to revive." "We brought back a corpse." Burning Kister stood outside the dungeon core main hall and shouted. Sherlock had been planning for the dungeon's interrogation room. He had been imagining how he would lure the surface adventurers to the dungeon, capture them, interrogate and torture them for unlimited magic stones. His daydream was interrupted by Burning Kister shouting. Sherlock walked out of the hall to take a look. The gamers were surrounding Not where Rinkpants' corpse outside the main hall. Sherlock glanced at Not where Rinkpants, whose stomach was impaled by a broken spider leg. He had perished during the mission. Morose came back with a sense of guilt mixed with astonishment. Sherlock understood just by looking at him. Morose was taken aback by the gamers' fearless and devil-may-care attitude. Sherlock observed that all the goblins, with the exception of Arthur, were all smiling merrily because of a successful mission. Morose was most likely dumbfounded by the gamers' attitude. Normally, the souls of dead goblins would be trapped in the spirit world, but the souls of the other world's gamers stayed in the dungeon core. If there was a corpse, the goblin would be revived. If there was no corpse, Sherlock would summon the goblin using mana. The other world called this recreate new character. Sherlock thought for a while before healing Not where Rinkpants' corpse. Then, Not where Rinkpants revived in front of Morose. The gamers gathered together and celebrated the completion of the first special mission. They surrounded the captured spider and observed it, as most of them had not seen an underground spider before. Sherlock called Morose into the dungeon core main hall. Morose was bewildered and needed answers from the dungeon lord. "As you witnessed, my servants can be revived. Their souls need not go to the spirit world. Even if their corpses are missing, I can summon them back. Don't ask further. As I'm a superior devil, you won't be able to understand the intricacies," Sherlock said as he sat down and supported his chin. Morose was full of strong emotions and was about to speak when Sherlock raised his hand to cut him off. "Don't say a word. I know what you're going to say. You won't be able to revive like the goblins, because you don't meet the requirement. My dungeon is different from the others. If you wish to stay here, I'll welcome you to train them and you can complete the probation. If the goblins have frightened you, you may choose to leave." Morose immediately knelt down and shouted, "Dungeon Lord, I am unable to express my admiration with words. I'm willing to sign a soul contract with you and serve you forever." Soul contract was the highest degree of contract, which was equivalent to a slavery deed. He would become the dungeon lord's closest servant. Of course, the salary was still the same, but it would not be easy to leave. It was unlike normal servants who could leave if they were unhappy. To leave, he had to absolve the soul contract and erase some sensitive memories that were related to the dungeon lord's secrets. Morose was excited, but Sherlock did not intend to sign the soul contract with him. Besides, the soul contract was out of fashion and was troublesome to terminate. The new generation devil lords depended on generous benefits and outstanding charisma to attract his servants. Everyone obtained the same benefits, and it was mutually beneficial. That was how it worked. Sherlock was not interested in signing the soul contract with Morose. As a devil, privacy and the sense of mystery was important. Brew would frequently speak to him in his mind, and that was unavoidable. But if Morose were to intrude on his privacy, Sherlock would not be able to bear it. Sherlock understood Morose's intention. He was envious of the gamer's ability to revive. Who would not be tempted by unlimited revivals? Souls of normal life forms would be trapped in the spirit world. Not everyone could be a superior devil. Soul contract is unnecessary. You have a wife and a family. I know it's hard to earn money. You have to be strong. Do not sell your soul unnecessarily. Sherlock helped Morose to stand up and sent him out of the main hall. Sherlock said, if you want to stay here, you may work without worry. Once our eternal kingdom develops, the benefits like insurance and rest chambers will be provided. You may even bring your family over in the future. Wasn't Winterfell slowly developed over the years too? Good, you may continue your work. I have high expectations for you. When Morose came out of the main hall, the gamers gathered around him and raised up their bronze coins in a bid to purchase training time. Morose surveyed the surrounding goblins. He had initially thought that Sherlock was a rich dungeon lord to have employed that many goblins. But now, he discovered that Sherlock was rich and gifted with revival power. Could he be the legendary Satan? Morose used to look down on these goblins and treated them as novices. But now, he did not look down on them as they could revive. Moreover, they were that close to Lord Sherlock. Their future achievements were unimaginable. Sherlock had said that he did not meet the requirements because he was not loyal enough. Morose firmly believed that once Lord Sherlock understood that he was a loyal and hard-working servant, Lord Sherlock would treat him like the other goblins. To achieve this accolade and accompany Lord Sherlock on his journey, he had to follow Lord Sherlock's instructions and train the goblins to become qualified warriors. Let's go for training. The next training will cost you 100 bronze coins per session, Morose said to the goblins. Sherlock watched Morose lead the gamers to the training ground for training. Bruce said, this arrangement will ensure Morose loyalty for a long time. I thought the dungeon lord would tell Morose about the goblins coming from the Underworld. Are you hiding the truth from Morose in exchange for his loyalty? That is only one consideration. It's mainly to prevent my secrets from being divulged, Sherlock said. Brew, I don't think there's a second dungeon core like you who can summon servants from the Underworld. The gamers are easier to manage than the Underworld creatures. If the other dungeon lords discover this, how long can I hold against them? Brew said with certainty in a jovial tone, Dungeon Lord, you could run away while I would be conquered since I have nowhere to go. Exactly. Sherlock shrugged his shoulders and looked at the dungeon map as shown by the dungeon core. Sherlock made plans on the map and said, we have to boost up our capability fast. How many of the other world's gamers can you summon? My limit is 100. To increase the number, Dungeon Lord is to increase my level, Brew said. Of course, we have to publish an announcement on the official website for a second beta testing to recruit the required number. We have to increase the number of opened areas and playing methods to attract them. The playing methods refer to job variety. Upgrading the dungeon core required the assimilation of another dungeon core. That would require money or conquering another dungeon. Sherlock was unable to do either of them, so he had to put aside his goblin recruitment drive. Forget it. The 100 gamers are sufficient to help me develop the dungeon. Let's see if I can find magic stone ores. Sherlock looked outside the dungeon core main hall. Most of the gamers had spent their bronze coins to learn combat skills. A small number of gamers were mining ore, carrying bricks and paving stone slabs. The Raintoe gamer was still caring for her newly planted seeds at the flower bed. The distant fairy was curled up in the corner of her bed while she watched discreetly. Since she had arrived, she had not moved around. Sherlock did not imprison her in a cage as he did not see a need. Sherlock watched the little fairy in a daze when a mining gamer shouted, Holy cow! Come take a look, see what I found while mining. Morose and the gamers were finding a place to secure the spider. They bound the spider with a few metal chains so that it could be used as a training tool. They heard a miner's shout and ran over to see what had happened. A gamer whose head was showing peasant was holding a pickaxe in his hand as he looked excitedly at the rock wall. Behind the rock wall were a few excavated holes that showed faint golden glimmers. It looked like glinting gold, or something similar to that. What's that? Gold door? I don't know. I mined using my pickaxe and found this. The peasant gamer was not sure how to answer the rest. He raised his pickaxe, which was broken from the middle. It had been broken when he was hitting on the gold-colored ore. The peasant gamer said, this ore must be valuable. I only hit it twice and my pickaxe broke. Did I discover something valuable? That's possible. It's very dense. It could be something valuable. Call the dungeon lord to confirm. Could this be a new game item? As the gamers were busy chatting, Sherlock arrived, and the gamers gave way as they looked in anticipation at him. The peasant gamer raised his pickaxe excitedly in anticipation of a reward, but Sherlock was having a heartache as he looked at the broken pickaxe that had cost him 10 magic stones. Simba was able to make pickaxe heads, so he could replace it. Sherlock decided to investigate what the gamer had discovered. Sherlock dismissed the surrounding gamers so that they resumed their training and mining. He shouted for Simba to come and identify the unknown, or as it was better to let a professional handle it. Simba put aside his work and asked the gamers to clean the surrounding areas that were made of diamond seam. Then, he hit and hammered the gold-colored ore. He even licked it. After checking for a long time, Simba said with confidence, this is an adamantine ore. But it's not very pure, so it will require refinement after excavation. It's most suitable for making weapons, but it's a waste to use it for weapons. Its magic conductivity is very strong, and it is commonly used for making alchemy platforms, magical items, or teleport portal foundations. Can this be sold? Sherlock asked as he was concerned about profit. It can be sold, but the actual price depends on purity and market demand. An ore the size of a goblin can fetch hundreds to thousands of magic stones. I'm not sure about the exact amount. Simba was an expert blacksmith, but he was not knowledgeable in the adamantine market. Sherlock nodded. Could the ore be mined? The peasant gamer's pickaxe had broken after 2 hits as the adamantine ore was harder than the diamond seam. Sherlock asked Simba, who scratched his head. Simba said, the pickaxe made from diamond seam cannot be used to mine adamantine ore. A material harder than adamantine is needed. I'll write a letter back to the shop to check the cost. Good. After checking the prices, get me 10 pickaxes for mining adamantine ore. I can use the mined adamantine ore as collateral. Sherlock was in need of money. He had thought that if magic stone ores were discovered, it would help his financial situation. Instead, adamantine ore was discovered, which was not bad. Sherlock felt that adamantine ore would not be more valuable than magic stone ore, but it was still better than nothing. As for saving the adamantine ore for making alchemy platforms, magical items and teleport portal foundations, Sherlock was giving them a pass as he did not need them at the moment. He was unable to maintain a good supply of food, so he needed more magic stones. He was practical and also flexible. It was a new generation. Even if it were the Underworld, it did not mean developing the dungeon alone. Instead, there could be lots of interaction and business in a market economy. Merchants were forming groups to create neutral dungeons. As a new generation Devil Lord, Sherlock could not afford to be behind the times. Simba quickly went to write the letter, which would be delivered quickly using mana. After Simba completed his letter, he ignited the letter, sending magic powder, and threw the letter into the magic fire that consumed it. The letter was sent to Winterfell's don't have the most expensive stuff blacksmith shop. He had to wait for a reply. The gamers were curious about the newly discovered ore vein. Because they did not have suitable tools, they were unable to mine it. Some gamers tried to use their pickaxes to mine it, but was stopped by Brew. Sherlock awarded the peasant gamer a suit of armor, a short sword, a silver coin, and 1,000 reputation points for discovering the adamantine ore. The rewards looked bountiful, but they were of no value to Sherlock. The armor and short sword were of no value, and the bronze coins were like feces. As for reputation, it was a laughing stock in the Underworld. If anyone discovered such ores in a dungeon, they would be richly rewarded with magic stones. Sherlock felt that he had gained a lot from recruiting the Underworld's gamers, as he had saved a lot of money. Though Sherlock did not think the rewards were worth much, but to the gamers, the reward was shocking. It was the largest reward ever. The previous 10 gamers who had helped Moros capture the spider had only obtained 500 reputation points, 100 bronze coins, a set of armor, and a short sword. The peasant gamer had been rewarded with twice the amount for discovering a new ore vein. It was like opening a treasure chest. The gamers' gazes were full of enthusiasm. These walls were not just a means of completing their ore mining mission. They were treasure chests. They could become the next peasant by discovering new ore veins and getting rich rewards. However, they could not mine as they liked since the missions were randomly allocated. After discovering the adamantine ore, Sherlock had to plan more for the dungeon. After adjusting his plan in the dungeon core main hall, Simba came in with a letter. The don't have the most expensive stuff blacksmith shop had replied. Respectable Lord Sherlock, I received the letter from Simba. I would like to congratulate you on your adamantine ore discovery. I won't decline your request for 10 pickaxes to mine adamantine ore, as you are my most loyal customer. As the pickaxes need to be made of special material, they cannot be delivered via teleport portal. I have decided to let a merchant band passing by your dungeon deliver the pickaxes. The merchant band is also interested in collaborating with you on the adamantine ore. Please have a good discussion with the merchants. Wishing you a happy life and a smooth sailing business. Regards from don't have the most expensive stuff blacksmith shop's employees. Sherlock knew what to do after reading the letter. Though he was unable to mine the ore immediately, it was still all right to wait for 10 days. The merchant band seemed interested in collaboration, so Sherlock could save on transportation fees to Winterfell if he could do business with the merchants. While Sherlock was waiting for the merchant band, the gamers were busy developing the dungeon and improving their combat skills by going through Moro's rigorous training. After slogging for so many days, most of the gamers had a set of armor and a short sword. After making most of the tools, Simba started making shields. The shield's price of 600 bronze coins was similar to the armor and sword. Brew completed the summary of the shield attributes. Diamond shield, ordinary white equipment. Defense, 8. Weight, 10. Durability, 10. Forger, blacksmith Simba. Required reputation, dungeon, Eternal Kingdom reputation level 1, basic level. Dungeon Eternal Kingdom's most commonly seen shield. Forged from diamond seam. When the gamers saw the new equipment, those with money bought the shield at the first instance. Those without money continued working on their missions. With Moros as their skills trainer, the gamers' combat skills improved by leaps and bounds. They could spar with the captured spider effectively. Sherlock became busier as he had to heal and revive the gamers who were either injured or killed by the spider. He could not browse the official website and the discussion forum in peace. After Sherlock had set up the official website for the beta testing, the registered members had exceeded 100,000 in half a month. The number was still increasing daily. Though there were only 100 beta gamers, it did not dampen the other members' enthusiasm in the discussion forum. They waited patiently for the beta testers to share their experience. Once a beta tester appeared on the forum, they would swarm and suck up to the beta tester. One of the few topics of great interest was the story development of the mysterious fairy NPC. The second was the aftermath of the adamantine ore discovery. The third was the most important concern that many members were curious about. It was the exploration of the spider's lair. The spider's lair had been open for more than 10 days. Within a week, the first team of 5 goblins had been annihilated, while the second expedition of 30 goblins had been badly beaten. With the arrival of Moros, the skills trainer, the gamers had trained in combat skills for a few days. 20 of the gamers were armed with armor, short sword and shield as they prepared for the third exploration of the spider's lair.